It's a pleasure being here, Armani, and we always enjoy participating in the awards. It's great to get external feedback. Now, there are many awards for investor relations in the industry overall, but I think yours is quite special because the votes here are directly coming from our target group, from our investors and from the analysts. And your award is not sponsored by any party. So we get many requests. You're nominated for an award and you have very high chances of winning it. But would you kindly place an ad in our newspaper or sponsor a table? But with your awards, it's really a direct vote, no sponsoring required. And it's a great opportunity for us to get some feedback directly from the analysts and from the investors. And we also appreciate the data that you provide. How are we doing compared to other companies in the sector? Or how are we doing compared to other companies in Qatar? And that's always very interesting to see. I have indeed a lot of experience in investor relations. I'm doing it now for more than 20 years. I've been doing it in Europe for a Japanese company. I did investor relations for Canon, set up the European IR program. And then I set up the international IR program for Cisco in London. And the last 13 years here based in the Middle East. But the components are always the same. You communicate the corporate results and the strategy and explain how you get there. And if the results are different from the plan, then you have to explain the deviation, positive or negatively. Key to successful IR, from my point of view, is always being consistent, talking to investors in good times and in bad times, but also continuously trying to improve your disclosure. And that's what we are doing here at Ooredoo. Our management is very keen to be transparent and open, and we are always asking for feedback from the investors and from the analysts. Let me give you an example. For example, many companies are talking about how important the customers are, and customer excellence is a key criteria for them. Now, anybody can claim that, but we at Ooredoo, we are starting now trying to measure these things and sharing the results directly in our results presentation. So we disclose some new information. The churn of our customers, something which is called NPS. For people who are not working in the telco industry, it's a net promoter score. Or we also disclose the number of complaints that we get by every market that we are in, how many complaints for 1,000 customers. And that's very interesting information, and it shows that we are taking our customers really serious and are willing to disclose and monitor additional KPIs. COVID definitely has accelerated and driven people even more online. And of course, being a telco company, that had a significant impact on our performance and on investor relations as well. If we just look at our customers, everybody has been spending much more time on the professional side, on the corporate side, doing video calls like we are doing right now. But also in the private side, people are spending much more time consuming video content, watching Netflix, Hulu, Disney, playing more games, and that of course increases the traffic quite dramatically. So we've seen big changes there, and it wasn't possible to physically meet investors, so we are doing much more conference calls, and we skipped many conferences or doing hybrid events where we have some people participating in person and then webcasting them at the same time. It has advantages and disadvantages. It's nice not being jet lagged and being probably in better shape at the conferences because we don't have the long travel times, but we miss seeing people face to face and see the reactions. If you do a conference call and you have a group of investors and everybody has the camera switched off, it's very difficult to gauge the reaction of the investors, and you don't get any clues if they need more information on certain topics or if they're interested or not so interested in certain parts. So that has a mixed impact, but overall there will be more of this video conferencing in the future as well, and more hybrid events. Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic like everywhere else, but especially in Qatar. Qatar is the biggest LNG exporter globally, and the economy here is heavily depending on oil and gas, and hence there's a strong focus on the country. And also our investors are asking, what are you doing in the ESG space? We started our ESG disclosure a couple of years ago, and we produced our first ESG report. This year we published the second edition as part of our annual report, covering all areas, the environmental sector. Investors are looking at our emissions. They're not as relevant as in the oil and gas sector. Nevertheless, there's a strong focus on global warming, and investors are looking at that. It's still early days, so we are reporting emissions. The next step will probably be developing some specific targets in this area, and then eventually trying to become carbon neutral. And some other companies in the industry have done that already. Definitely an area that we are working on together with industry associations like the GSMA, and we're also talking to other peers in the region as well. That's a key topic for us, and there will be much more to come. Also on the governance side, there's lots of interest on how we disclose information, what policies do we have in place, and how do we make them public. Data security for a telco company is an important topic. How do we educate our customers, and how do we train our staff? It's a very exciting area, and key for us. And in the future, there might be also a possibility to issue some ESG green related financing. That's something that the Treasury team will be looking at in the future as well. I like the fact that I'm dealing with all parts of the company, not only with the finance part, but also with the commercial team, the marketing team, the legal team, top management, strategy. So there's a lot of variety in the job, and I always enjoyed that. And of course, on the investor and analyst side, we have the chance to meet very smart people, and we always have very interesting discussions. So, and I still think it's a very exciting job, and I'm enjoying it.
20 years into, if you're still enjoying it, that's a good thing, isn't it?
Absolutely,
so looking ahead a little bit into the future, and considering obviously the 20 years, how you've seen investor relations evolve and develop and be subject to regulatory changes and market volatility, so IR always had to adapt and be agile. Where do you see the biggest impact lie for investor relations in the future?
I think we discussed briefly about digitalization, and that's an area which will only gather more pace in future. There will be more disclosure. Systems will be linked automatically. When I started, we always produced these very thick Bibles every quarter, printed out lots of documents. That's all digital now, documents being linked. The next step is linking content of investor presentations directly to our finance systems, and that's already partially implemented. There's more to come in that space. There's going to be a much more detailed disclosure, quicker disclosure, and ESG is another area where there are lots of opportunities to share the company's ambition and the progress against new targets there. So I would say digitalization and ESG are the main trends going forward. I love to travel and always enjoy visiting new places. A very exciting place, and probably the most exciting place, is Socotra. Some people might not even have heard of it. Socotra is part of Yemen, although it's technically closer to Somalia. It's a very remote island, which has been almost cut off from the rest of the world, and they only have an airport the last 20 years. Pretty rough monsoon weather, and before it was only possible to reach Socotra by boat during certain months of the year. The consequence of that is that Socotra, the island, is very untouched and different from the rest of the world. The landscape there is very unique, the whole flora and fauna. You've got bottle trees there, dragon blood trees. It looks very futuristic. The beaches are fantastic. White sand, you have schools of dolphins and tuna, and you can do swimming and snorkeling there. There's no mobile phone coverage outside of Adibo, the capital, and it's really a fantastic place. Not much infrastructure. You go out and have guides there, and they transport your stuff on camels there. You do camping, not much electricity, very basic, but a beautiful country and a fantastic place. Would love to go back there again, yeah. Yeah, bucket list, but there are many things which I still like to do. Traveling is a big part of it. I would like to do more of that, maybe travel in a van, take some time off and see some new countries, just driving around and enjoy that. I also love sports a lot, and I like triathlons. I've done half a dozen of half Ironmans, but I've never done a full distance Ironman. So that's a target for me. I would love to do that. I signed up for the one in Ross in Germany. Unfortunately, due to COVID, that was canceled that year, so I have to start training for it again. And the last thing on the bucket list is learning to play the piano. That's something I started very recently. Last Christmas, I got myself one of these electronic keyboards, and I signed up for a program called Simply Piano, which is an amazing app. It listens how you are playing, and it's a program where you can gradually learn how to play, and it's suitable for people like me who are not very musically trained, and you really learn it from the scratch there, and it's surprisingly good fun. So I try to do that quite regularly and would love to do more of that. Thank you so much for having me, and also thank you to everyone who voted for Ooredoo.